Contracts, why to read them. Now, this may seem really, really basic, but I really want to jump back and give some thought to why we do some of the things we do in business and business law, and why the lawyer-client relationship is so important. Why do we sit down and read contracts? I'm Shawn McBride. I'm a practicing lawyer. I work with business owners and business leaders to help them shape their businesses, get things arranged the way they want, structured properly, and move their business forward. And of course, part of that process is reviewing and developing contracts and looking at what's in them. So one thing I want to impress upon everyone is the contracts need to be read. And a lot of times, just getting past that rolling your eyes and not wanting to look at the contract and actually reading them can really open up a lot of light. Now, of course, lawyers that deal with contracts regularly, they may have some more familiarity. They may understand some of the nuances. But a good business person can read a contract and really get an understanding of what's going on. And you may be surprised what you find in some of these contracts. A lot of times there's buried provisions that are bad for you or not helpful. Also, some other things are, just abusive or difficult or maybe just not good for you. Maybe the litigation provision or the arbitration provision makes you travel to where the seller or vendor is. Is that a good deal for you? Does that work for you? Certainly something to think about, and the difficulty of getting your money back or a remedy if something gets wrong. Here's the key, is we got to sit down and read these agreements and understand them. Usually, in my case, of course, as a lawyer, it's usually a lawyer-client thing. We are working together. We are reading those agreements together. This becomes particularly important with non-competes, non-solicitations, other things that regular people might encounter as part of their employment. But it's also important for our businesses, right? We need to sit down and read and understand what these agreements are, what they do, and where they lead us, and what they mean. So we want to really understand those relationships between those clauses and what it means to us. So sit down and read it. Here's something I can recommend. Parse the contract in sections and do it over multiple sessions if you really need to understand a contract. So if this is an important contract for you and your business, sit down and read it in multiple sections. So read the opening and the intros. That'll kind of lay out what's happening. The first couple sections will usually lay out who's trading what, who's doing what in the contract, who's paying what. And then the back half, a lot of people like to glance through, but there's also a lot of very important stuff there. Governing law, where litigation may happen, who picks up losses, and those indemnification provisions. So we really want to dig through it. Usually it's a good idea to pace yourself, particularly if you're not familiar with contracts, to read parts of the contract in sections. But they got to be read, particularly before they're signed, because they are so important. When we get to litigation, what the contract says becomes critical. And in most cases, the judge and jury don't want to hear about things outside the contracts. There's legal principles that often constrain the litigation to what's in the contract. So very, very careful about reading them. Get your legal team involved. Do a good review and know where you're at. If you have questions and comments about business and business law, I welcome you dropping them below, but keep them general in nature. Don't reveal anything confidential. Other people may see your comments. Hope you consider subscribing to our channel and join me in those comments. I'll see you down there.